Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN, of whom more in a bit. Today I'm on the Overground once again, and I'm stopping off at Surrey Quays. It's a station that's gone through 3 names and several owners, and it's over 150 years old, so we have a lot to cover. Might as well get on with it then. The name Surrey Quays is relatively new. It's only been called that since 1989. Before that, it was known as Surrey Docks. The Surrey Docks are basically the area of London's docklands to the south of the River Thames. In the 19th century, the Port of London was truly enormous. The amount of goods coming in was so high that docks had to be specialised. The Surrey Docks specialised in the Baltic and Canadian trade, with timber being a particularly major commodity. But of course, this posed a problem. How do you get these cargoes from here to the rest of London? The old way was by water. Put them on a barge or a lighter and haul them over the river. But that was slow, and the docks and the river were congested. There was no river crossing east of London Bridge, and the fact that these were still the days of sail meant that a bridge wasn't really a viable solution, unless you made it really tall or you invented Tower Bridge, which no one had back then. If only there was some other way. Say, a tunnel. If only. But in the early 19th century that was considered impossible. The riverbed was muddy and polluted. Attempts to dig a tunnel ended in failure. The wet mud filled in dig sites as fast as they could be dug out. Even Richard Trevithick, the eccentric genius behind the steam locomotive, declared it impossible. And he was a Cornish mining engineer by trade with extensive experience of digging tunnels under the sea. It fell to Marc Isambard Brunel, a French engineer who'd fled to England, to come up with the solution. That was the tunnelling shield. This was a structure that could be pushed through the mud and would shelter the workforce within it. One lot of workers would dig out the mud in front, and those behind would secure and reinforce the tunnel. Brunel worked with Thomas Cochrane, a colleague from his days working for the Royal Navy, to perfect the device. Together they patented it in 1818. Finally, the tunnel could be commenced, and it was in 1825 that the dig started. But even with the shield, digging the tunnel took a long time, and it was not without incident. Leaks were common, and the tunnel flooded twice, in 1827 and 1828. The second of these accidents nearly killed Brunel's son, Isambard. Fortunately, he survived and would go on to become an even more famous engineer than his father. But work on the tunnel halted. The remainder of construction was slow. All told, it took just over 18 years from commencement to opening, with the public first using the tunnel in March 1843. But this was not the tunnel originally planned. A shortage of funds meant that the road entrances weren't built, so it opened as a pedestrian subway. It was initially quite a tourist attraction, but it was far from financially successful. So when the East London Railway approached the tunnel company in 1865 with an offer to buy them out, it was a satisfactory proposal to all. The tunnel was perfect for conversion into a railway line, the right size for rolling stock and a twin bore so double track could be laid. The project was an attractive one because, again, this was the only crossing east of London Bridge. The potential income was enormous. 6 companies got in on the project: the Great Eastern Railway, the South Eastern Railway, the London Chatham and Dover Railway, the Metropolitan Railway, the District Railway, and the London Brighton and South Coast Railway. All wanted their connection. The next step was to get the tunnel to connect with the railways. It had to be extended. These extensions were far longer than the original tunnel, yet it took the ELR 4 years to get from purchase to completion of the line. Now, you may not be able to get around the world from the docklands these days, but you can do so virtually with the help of today's sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Thanks to their servers in over 100 countries, Surfshark allows you to appear to be just about anywhere in the world. Now, I know what you're thinking. What a ridiculous thing to do. Why would I want that? You're insane, Jago. What's wrong with you? Well, actually, there are lots of reasons why you might want to do that. It enables you to access streaming services and other online content that you'd otherwise be blocked from in your home country. It allows you to get around region locks and to avoid government censorship. and it lets you take advantage of region-specific pricing while you're shopping online. But while your journey may be virtual, the risks from online snoopers are very real. But Surfshark gives you an additional layer of protection by using its advanced encryption to hide your identity online. What's more, Surfshark can be used on unlimited devices from a single account, representing excellent value for money. Oh, that's not enough for you? Well, check out this exclusive offer for viewers of this channel. Click the link in the description below or scan the QR code that should be appearing right now, and you can get 4 months extra free when you enter the code JAGO. And let me wish you a hearty bon voyage with Surfshark VPN. South of the river there were 2 stations below ground level. One was Rotherhithe, and the other was Surrey Quays. Well, Surrey Docks. Well, actually, it wasn't even called that when it opened. The station opened on the 7th of December 1869 under the name of Deptford Road. The original station building looked quite different, more akin to the present-day Rotherhithe. The building had to fit on a somewhat awkward corner site and was rather cramped-looking. There are a lot more original features at platform level. Currently there are 2 platforms, although there used to be a bay platform at the southern end where trains could terminate. It's hidden behind a metal fence now. There would have been another bay platform at the other end, but for whatever reason it wasn't built. There was also a siding into the docks themselves, and a number of other sidings for storing rolling stock. Apparently there was a special de-icing vehicle stored here in the 1920s, but I haven't been able to find any further details of that. In the early days, the ELR was a key north-to-south artery, and it was possible to get to a wide variety of destinations from Surrey Docks, which incidentally is what Deptford Road was renamed in July 1911. At various times there were trains to Hammersmith, Liverpool Street, Addiscombe, Paddington, Kensington, and seemingly just about anywhere in London. But there were to be a few twists of fate that worked against the line. In 1884 the Metropolitan Railway took over passenger trains on the line, which was all well and good, but in 1905 they decided to electrify their railway, excluding the East London line, which meant that there were no longer through trains into central London from southeast London, and started a trend of treating the East London Railway as a separate, isolated thing. In the 1910s, the companies that ran the ELR got together to talk about putting the line on the juice. In the end, they decided to use the underground system of electrification, but only between New Cross and Shoreditch, so there would no longer be a connection to Liverpool Street. The Metropolitan didn't take the opportunity to reinstate through services, although the district did bring them in. Nevertheless, electrification was completed in 1913, and I just love this 1914 map that highlights the electrification. Evidently the company were hoping for the Sparks effect. It was common for electrification to attract passengers to a railway. It was seen as fast, clean, and modern. And the East London Railway badly needed passengers. The relative isolation of the line meant that it was of fairly limited use in itself. The majority of passengers from Surrey Docks were workers travelling on government-mandated cheap fares. Good for them, not so much for the railway company. The arrival of trams in 1911 also eroded passenger numbers. Now, hold on to your hats, because here comes a whole bunch of railway amalgamations. In 1923, the mess of different railways in Britain were mostly grouped together into 4 major companies. The Great Eastern Railway became part of the London and North Eastern Railway. The London, Brighton and South Coast, the South Eastern and the London, Chatham and Dover Railways became part of the Southern Railway, and the Metropolitan and District Railways remained independent. For now. In 1925, the East London Railway officially became part of the Southern Railway, with the London and North Eastern, the Metropolitan and the District all retaining shares. The Metropolitan still ran the passenger trains. In 1933, the Metropolitan and District Railways were absorbed into the London Passenger Transport Board, or London Transport. In 1948, both London Transport and the Main Line railways were nationalised, and the East London Railway was properly handed over to London Transport. Are we clear? I'm certainly not. In general, Surrey Docks had a fairly uneventful history, but in the 60s it was to suffer something of a blow, as were the docks in general. A revolution in cargo handling was underway, in the form of containerisation. Ships carrying crates, barrels and sacks would be replaced by enormous cargo vessels, serving even more enormous cargo terminals. London's docks just weren't suited to this kind of traffic. One by one, the old docks closed. Goods trains over the line ended in 1966. The Surrey docks struggled on until 1969. So now what? The government were faced with a major problem. An enormous area of South and South East London that had lost its biggest employer. There were various ideas to revitalise the Surrey docks. Most of them would have involved filling the basins in. Ideas proposed included an airport, a trade mart, and even an international station serving the Channel Tunnel, which was then in the early stages of planning. There was a scheme in the early 70s to bring another tube line in. At that point, a line known as the Fleet Line was in development. This would have run from Stanmore to Fenchurch Street, then crossed under the river and come up at Surrey Docks. Then it would have taken over the East London line south of Surrey Quays and run from New Cross to Lewisham. Surrey Quays would thus have become an interchange between the Fleet Line and what remained of the East London line. Well, of course, that didn't happen. The government got cold feet about funding such an expensive project. The Fleet Line would develop into the Jubilee Line, and in 1999 that would meet the East London Line, at nearby Canada Water, which was a new station constructed especially for the purposes of interchange. By the 1980s, the East London Line was looking pretty dilapidated. Shamefully so, in fact. Given the London Docklands Development Corporation's hopes for the area that it was running through, it wouldn't do. So London Transport embarked on a programme of rebuilding. Not all of the stations got the treatment, but Surrey Docks did. The old station was knocked down and a new one was put up in its place. After years of low budgets and often poor architectural choices, the 80s marked a period when London Transport started to get its groove back, design-wise. And Surrey Quays is a very 80s-looking station. In 1985, Surrey Quays Shopping Centre opened, bringing traffic to the station and giving the area a new attraction. In 1989, the station was renamed in line with the name of the new development. From 1995 to 1998, the station was closed completely. The old Thames Tunnel was in a dreadful and frankly dangerous state and needed urgent repairs. So the East London Line was temporarily replaced with the ELX bus route while all that was done. More change was to come in the 2000s. After decades of isolation, it was decided to reconnect the East London Line with the rest of the rail network. The idea of extending the East London Line had been in the works since the 80s, but it was in 2007 that works finally began. Surrey Quays closed, again, while the line was extended at the northern end. In 2010 it reopened, now part of the new London Overground. In 2012, the second phase of the extension was completed at the southern end, making the East London Line part of an orbital route around London. The Overground scheme has been an enormous success, bringing new life to old railways and giving the city new connections. But the story of Surrey Quays is far from over. There are plans to redevelop the area, which are already underway. There will be new shops and a huge number of flats, and the big question is, will Surrey Quays be able to cope? In the opinion of Transport for London, no, and so they are planning to add a second entrance on the other side of the road to make it easier to access the new development and increase station capacity in general. It will be an important part of the changes to the area. You might say, it'll be key. Well, I do hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. I would like to thank my donors on Ko-fi, on Patreon, and here on YouTube for your generous support. You are the second entrance to my tiny station. I would also like to thank Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. Click on the link in the description below to take advantage of their generous offer. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio.